The video game flipping business is a brutal one. I've been flipping games for the last 5 years now, and I've learned it's high pressure and high competition. But at the end of the day, I still believe opportunity is everywhere. So today, I've come to Retro World Expo in Connecticut to get some brutally honest thoughts from my fellow video game resellers on what it's really like to flip video games, how much money they make, and whether this is still a viable industry.
I lost like an $800 game last year.
Wow, we're down 60% sales from last year alone.
It's more competitive, it's harder to buy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is it still worth it? So I'm curious, this is a really competitive industry. How do you get all of your inventory?
You know, a lot of my stuff I have to rely on Facebook Marketplace, locally where I'm at, alongside just deals on auction houses that I'm a part of as well.
So I actually hustle hard and I do a lot through flea markets. I get a lot of stuff off of like friends, old collections and stuff.
I was a collector for the longest time, and a couple friends and family kind of pushed me into it, like, hey, what are you doing with all this extra stuff? You should do something with it. And the store became a thing.
Okay, so you're now an owner of a physical store. I'm guessing that's probably how you get most of your inventory?
Correct. So, I mean, I still go out hunting, but obviously owning a store, you get the filter of inventory coming in, which is great.
Other than that, the community that just brings us stuff at shows that we go to around the country, that's where we kind of get a lot of our inventory from. So what comes in also goes out, is basically at shows.
Randomly running into stuff at like thrift stores and whatnot, buying out other people at toy shows. A lot of people that do like toy shows don't necessarily do video game stuff, so they're more willing to move it.
Meeting people at the flea markets, outdoor events, swap meets.
How do you get an edge over all the other folks out here doing the same thing?
So one thing I really pride myself on, I've been in the food industry forever, and what I learned from that was like, there's two big things. As long as the drinks are filled and you smile, that's two big things I always learn.
Yeah.
So I just brought the smiling part back. I don't give people out waters, unfortunately, but I do smile a lot. Other than that, I think the best thing I bring to the table is how much I offer percentage-wise for your games.
I know people that have inventory already, and if I need something, they're not beating me over the head for restock inventory. So I think that's my biggest competitive advantage to start off, is the relationships that I built prior to owning a business.
What I do differently is like, what I've found some people don't do versus what I do is I'm willing to haggle.
In an industry that people are offering 20%, 30%, 40%, I can offer at minimum 50% value of what your stuff is, and then more, depending on like how expensive it is, how fast I can burn, or how fast I can turn it, and then things like that. So I can offer better percentages for other things because I don't have a storefront at home. I don't have huge overhead like most other stores do, 8 employees, rent, power, electric, all that stuff, you know what I mean?
I try to buy my stuff at a fair price from people, but still at a price where, yes, I might start something like the Mario Left Bros at $210, but if someone's gonna offer me a fair price, of course I'm gonna take it. I don't wanna go home with this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm here to make money, I'm here to make people happy.
Games like Pokemon stuff, stuff that everybody knows in the industry moves such a rapid pace, is stuff I pay at minimum 70% for, and if that comes out to like a $40 game at 70% is equal to like $30, that's fine, because I'll make $10 immediately. I could put it out on the shelf and it would sell immediately. A game like a complete in box Pokemon Crystal, $700 value, or $730 I think is what I'm price charting right now, I could buy for $500, that's 70%. 70% is $500. I'll sell it for $700, $200, either instantly or within at least one show.
Is the store itself, would you say that gives you an edge too over some of these other people that don't have that?
Yeah, so obviously that's always a plus, right? Because owning a store, people are just gonna come in. Obviously the way the economy is, people need money, and people bring in stuff just because they need a little bit of cash flow. So that helps out a ton.
I think a big thing is I don't want to keep my inventory. I want it to move, because if people start seeing the same thing at different shows, it gets stale, they don't want to buy it.
I think it has to do with personality more than anything. At the end of the day, we are we're basically businesses that are person to person. So you have to be personable. You have to smile. You have to say hello. We greet everyone, no matter what. I don't care if you're buying something. I don't care if you're not buying anything. I will treat you the same way, regardless of how the situation is. We do plenty of giveaways because I get stuff for free, and I don't like to make money on stuff like that when I get giveaways or when I get given stuff like that. So I just give it away to the community. You know, we're always giving back. We're always posting stuff on social medias as well.
Like I get to the point sometimes I'll look at something, I'm like, I've had this for way too long, and I'll just slash the price in like half just to get rid of it. Or I'll try to bring it to somebody else and trade for something new just so I can get new inventory. So
That's really good.
yeah.
So on an average week, how many hours are you putting into this? And what are you hoping to make on like a weekend like this?
So for show wise, I usually try to get ready like at least 2 weeks in advance.
Wow.
Just because I want to make sure when I'm going through my inventory, whether it's video games or toys, that I'm gonna cater my best stuff to the people there.
So I would say anywhere between 15 to 20 hours, I'm physically like 100% going in on just worrying about inventory and worrying about the store.
Hours wise, I would say anywhere from 60 to 72 hours is what we're really putting into it. I work a remote job, so I have a full-time job anyways. But even working from home, I'm able to work on this stuff. You know, we're always sourcing, we're always pricing, we're always repricing as well.
A lot of times I'll price stuff and I don't necessarily change it. I just let people be like, hey, you're a little high on this. Be like, all right, well, make me an offer. Because stuff fluctuates all the time.
Prices fluctuate so fluidly.
You know, like I don't mind, like I know some games will go from like $100 all of a sudden down to like 50. But if I'm already into it for like 30, 40 bucks, I still have that wiggle room to give somebody a deal. And sometimes it's just, you know what? You just got to take your losses and deal with it.
That's something that we do, is we change our prices every so often because the market changes, so we need to change with the market.
You know, I'm 40 years old now, and I feel like when I retire, I still want to have something to do where I don't just feel useless. So the store is going to give me that bit of being needed for something, and so I'm building this with hopefully being able to retire within the next 5 to 10. And just running with the store from here on out.
Yeah. And then on a weekend like this, how much are you hoping to make on all like your total sales?
Usually, I would say after expenses, 15,000. That's the number that we always try to shoot for at minimum.
This is crazy too. This is my first event ever, right? Okay. So I don't know how to gauge like how other vendors do. After the first night, everything that I had invested into the con, I made, and I was already in the green.
Great.
So I'm 3 times X on what I spent to be at the con and inventory that I have bought, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I've talked to other people and they say that usually doesn't happen. So it may be just beginner's luck, but I would expect at a con like this with this booth, if it's a 3-day weekend, I would probably want to be somewhere in the 10 to 15 grand range for the weekend.
So this is my 4th year doing Retro World. Each year I've hit almost the exact same number, and right now I'm a little bit under where I want to be, but that's okay because I don't have some of the big bangers that I've had in the past. But a show like this, I usually take in about $10,000 on a weekend. As of right now, I'm probably around 7.
Wow.
It's very ambitious, but with an inventory that's, you know, $75,000, $80,000. I'm not saying that's our inventory, but as if an inventory is equal to a certain amount, you want to sell a certain percentage per show.
Yeah.
So 15,000 is usually the number that we want to hit.
So we still have, I mean, like 6 hours. So,
yeah, beginning of day 3 right now.
Yeah. And I mean, my goal for this weekend was 8, which I feel still pretty good. For what I'm into it for, so.
Well, to your credit, you've got a lot of excellent inventory at excellent prices. You were mentioning yesterday that you're not trying to be like above price charting or taxing on people.
Yeah, so learning from you, right? Like you love to move inventory. So I've kind of taken a little bit from everyone, and I kind of put that into my store where I want to have, even if I'm a little bit below market, I want to move inventory and create that relationship with my customers where they come back, right? Where they're not like, let me just keep on going to this guy because cruise is always heavy. Like I'll drag that, you know, customer base back to me because of my prices, right? So that's the big thing, just being able to price below market so I can continue to grow my, you know, customer base.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked about the good stuff, right? The selling, the hunting, all that. But talk to me about what are some of the downsides of this industry that people might not necessarily expect from the outside?
Some of the downsides is overpaying for inventory sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where you have to either just break even on it, or sometimes you have to sell it at a loss.
So there's a few things. Some stuff just, as much as it shows online is a $50, $60 game,
Yeah.
I can't move it for 40, 30 bucks. It happens. So like I will end up selling stuff like that online because it becomes stale inventory to me and I'll move it there. And then you run into all the other costs, which everybody knows, the online fees and the taxes. And I do my best to avoid, I do cash to try to avoid as much as I can with taxes, because who wants to pay Uncle Sam? Nobody.
2 points I want to make out is, one is the number that we get in. So when we make our money after expenses at a show, we may not hit that $15,000 goal that we ever get. And the problem with that is, after expenses, I'll put it out for example in all of our personal business, this trip alone was $6,600 in expenses. That's a lot of money. That's hotel, the drive, gas, U-Haul trailers, everything. I mean, if you add everything together, $6,600 is a lot of money.
Sheesh.
And we're supposed to make $15,000 after expenses. Do the math, it's $21,000, I think, is what we're supposed to sell on a weekend for us to even break that 15 grand.
And the 15 itself, that's not profit because that doesn't factor in cost of goods.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do the cost of goods, let's just say at minimum I pay 50%, so that's $7,500. So we make $7,500 profit is what we're making at that $15,000 after expenses, right?
If you hit it.
And that's rough numbers, right? Because some games I pay higher for, some
Totally.
games, right? So let's just say for the sake of it, it's $7,500 is the profit that we make. So that number is not, like, the number just keeps getting smaller and smaller the more we talk about it. But a show like this, where we're only hitting 60% of that number goal right now.
Unexpected costs that come up that you don't think of when you're doing conventions or you're doing, different shows. Even like the smaller shows, you run into issues that you don't realize. Something breaks, or like on the way here, driving, all my stuff strapped down, and one of these covers flew off the truck on the highway.
Oh, dang.
And we found out that we might have lost some inventory that we didn't realize we lost.
I would say probably, like, if you don't have enough staff, theft is a big issue at some of the conventions. There's a lot of slippery hands out here. But for me, the biggest one is probably the dollar amount, right? Like buying inventory at the wrong price. And it's like the stock market. This inventory goes up and down so quickly that sometimes you just gotta kind of throw it in the closet and hold on to it and hope that it comes back up. So that's the biggest, is being able to gauge and learning how to gauge the market.
Things are happening right now. The economy's down. People are trying to struggle. People are doing paycheck to paycheck right now. We're doing paycheck to paycheck right now as well. Rent's due, bills are due. You have to make ends meet, right? And when you don't have money to pay for games like this, and people don't have the money to spend like this, then unfortunately we just don't hit that goal anymore. And when you don't hit that goal, it hurts. It does hurt, because then you look at your numbers and you're like, wow, we're down 60% sales from last year alone.
And you think that's mostly because of just broader macroeconomic factors that you can't control?
Exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
I think it's just out of my reach. I can't do anything about it. The only thing we can do is just hope for the best. Go to a show, hope we clear a certain number, at least clear in the green.
And if I remember right, last year you even had some theft issues, didn't you?
Yeah, so this year what I did to get around the theft is I got some cameras running in my booth. Yes, it deters people, but at the same time, unfortunately, some people come and try to take advantage of people when you're busy. I lost an $800 game last year. Now, luckily, I wasn't into it for that much, but you know what? It still hurts.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as a small business owner, it hurts a little bit more, because I'm not like Walmart or Target making billions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
I'm making money, but at the same time, it sucks that someone's gonna want to steal from a small business owner.
Our family's at home. I'm 26 hours away from our daughter. She's 2 years old. She's the love of our lives, and we love her dearly. And then we have our oldest daughter, 12 years old. She's in high school now. She's killing it out there. She's trying to be volleyball, and we're missing those moments. I think that's a lot of things people don't see is I'm losing family time by being out here. I'm not saying that I don't want to be out here, and I'm not saying I'd rather be out there than be here. I'm saying it's a sacrifice we're making to make ends meet.
So when people come to you and they say they're thinking about getting into video games, what is your advice to them? Do you recommend this industry, and what do you tell them?
I do recommend it. If this is a passion of yours and you have the cash flow to start a business.
I don't tell anybody not to go after what they want to do. You know, take your dream and run. You know, you're going to find out the hard way whether it's going to work for you or not, or you're going to find out, you know what, this is great and I'm going to hit the ground running.
The best thing I can say, do you want to get into this? We'll start there, right? Do you want to get into this business? I say yes. I think it's fun. It's fun to be with the community and everything. Do you want to travel like I do? Think about it. Put it into your own perspective. If you want to travel the world, travel America, go state to state, enjoy other people's company. You know, we hang out with Brandon in Arkansas. We hung out with Riff and Ricky and everybody out in California.
Yeah.
And Mort, you know, we hung out with Mort this weekend too in Connecticut, you know. If you want to hang out with all those cool people, then yeah, do it. Put the time and effort into it and travel. It's fun. But again, of all the bad points I made or all the things that people don't understand, I think people have to really look at that and make sure it works into their minds as well, or it works with their establishment to do it.
If you're gonna start off and you don't have like that inventory that you've been building just from being a collector or whatever, I'd say a good 30 to 50K to start off is a good starting point.
If you're local, absolutely. If it's a show that's local to you and you have inventory or you have stuff you want to go do, I say 100% at least do one show in your lifetime, at least once. Like if you're here in Connecticut, come do this show. If you're in, I don't know, California, go do SoCal, because it's such a fun time. The environment's great. The people are great. You know, our best experiences we ever had is vendor to vendor experiences. I wouldn't have as close friends as I do now if it wasn't for vendors.
There's a lot of work involved, especially sourcing nowadays has become a lot harder than it used to be. Like I started doing toy hunting and all this about, like I said, 8 to 10 years ago. I could go out at 10 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to thrift stores and I could find stuff with no problems. Now we go to the flea markets and there's like 6, 7 other guys looking for the same stuff. It's just gotta be whoever finds it first.
But if you're starting out, I'd say the first thing is start locally. Small shows, swap meets, things like that. That's where I would start.
And a lot of people, now that everybody has a smartphone in their hand, even at flea markets, a lot of guys want almost full retail value.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of pick and choose your battles where you wanna get stuff. Some people will make deals, some people won't, and if they won't, you gotta move on.
I definitely do recommend it. I think there's still a market for more vendors, even though there's a ton of us out there. Maybe start small, right? Buy a couple tables at a local, like get together, a swap, and then work your way into conventions.
Yeah.
To me, if we break even, it's great because then at least everything's paid for. But if we break even, the problem is it's kind of like we just wasted our time. Was it worth the time and effort to drive 26 hours out here, 26 hours back for breaking even? It's not. It's really not at that point, you know?
Yeah.
It's wasted time.
That. It's more competitive, it's harder to buy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is it still worth it?
I say yes, because I worked for corporate America for way too long and I was getting burnt out. There's times like this, like I'm doing stuff and I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't trade this to go back to corporate America. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort and go out, you can't be that guy that just sits on his butt and complains, hey, these guys got the deals. You gotta get out, you gotta hustle, you gotta work at it. If you're not putting in the time, it's not gonna work.
Well, thank you so much for the advice. This has been awesome.
Absolutely.
Even though Zach, Spruch, and Ramsey's all have different business models and methods of getting inventory, I noticed they have 3 really important things in common. One is they're all optimists. They believe at their core that opportunity exists even in a market with a lot of competition. The second is they're all adaptable. From Spruch taking measures to prevent theft, to Ramsey's starting a store, to Zach testing a bunch of conventions to see which ones are the most successful, they all actively identify areas for growth and pivot accordingly. And third, these dudes are all just hustlers. They're all very familiar with 80-hour work weeks and late nights, doing what's necessary to prepare for a show like this and provide for themselves and their families. Getting to spend more time with people like them is the most rewarding part of being in business myself, and I'm constantly inspired by vendors like these guys. If you want to learn more about what it's really like to flip video games at a convention, check out this video where I go to one of the biggest shows in the world, spend thousands of dollars, and also talk to a bunch more vendors.